paradigm of negative population growth is going to be changing. And the social problems that one will have in substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations.
And I think we're getting skewed to the upside. I mean, just the fact that we're here at a crypto show at Bloomberg shows how long we've come since 2015, 16, 17. But we kind of got to the finish line. And when I say that, DC has finally agreed in principle that crypto legislation has to happen, that it should be bipartisan. We still have a couple holdouts, but the last few weeks have been unbelievably positive in pushing the Democrats forward, seeing this. They don't want it to be a political issue. And so that which was a headwind is becoming a tailwind. It's not a full tailwind yet. We have governments that can't stop spending money, and so that just is so powerful for the Bitcoin narrative. And then all of a sudden you hear, wait a minute, the state of Wisconsin's pension fund bought $140 million of Bitcoin. And so as we get more pension funds in, more institutions in, there's not a lot of sellers.
So the question we know you hate then, where do we end the year?
Listen, if we take out the 73,000 in the next week or so, we're going to end the year at 100,000, somewhere around there or even higher. Markets work, they create ranges. When the top of the range breaks, you have a nice extension. And so, the bottom of that range started around 40, so 40 to 70, the 70 goes to 100. And so that's a good enough target.
Okay, we saw spot Bitcoin ETFs start to get approved this year, and we've seen a lot of inflows there. So it makes me wonder what the next catalyst is for Bitcoin to actually break 73 and get to your year-end target of 100,000.
Yeah, so I had the same question asked to me, 5 weeks ago, and I said, I don't think it will unless we get one of two things happen. More regulatory clarity, which I thought was a low probability at that point, and or the Fed starting to move. We're getting the regulatory clarity. And even though it's not perfect, we got enough that people now realize this is coming. And why is that important? What does it mean? So if SAB 121, this arcane accounting bill, in time gets overturned, it allows Bank of New York and State Street and others to get into custody. If the infrastructure bill, if the FIT 21 bill gets approved, it allows Goldman Sachs and Citibank and all these other people to start doing sales and trading. And so as you bring those institutions in, huge money follows.
At the end of the day, who would be better for Bitcoin? Who would be better for crypto, Trump or Biden?
Listen, what is so clear to me is it's the wrong question. What is good for our industry is a bipartisan support of bills. Otherwise, you're going to be student body left, student body right. Listen, these elections are going to swing back and forth for a while. And so crypto shouldn't be partisan. The short answer is right now Trump would, because he says, I'm crypto president, I'm going to do all this stuff. But it's a short-term way of looking at things. What we've done a really great job of, and shout out to Brian Armstrong and lots of people in the industry, our own Tyler, we've got our own lobbyist in D.C., is educating people on both sides. And there are tons of Democrats that are for good crypto legislation now.
So many people who are pouring money into elections right now and into lobbying from the crypto community. What's the scale? How much influence do they really have as someone, frankly, Mike, who's a traditional way donor as well as a crypto donor?
The scale has gotten big. That's why the Democrats woke up. There's been about $150 million, on its way to $250 million in these crypto super PACs. That's not all crypto money. What happened was when the Democrats kept saying we don't like crypto, and again, it was a very small group. It was Elizabeth Warren who said, I want to have an anti-crypto army. The way politics work in D.C. is every senator doesn't know every issue. They look to the leader of that committee. So Elizabeth really was running crypto for the Democrats, and she hates crypto. So all that money started to look like Republican money, even though it was supposed to be bipartisan, and focused on really key races. Sherrod Brown's race, John Tester's race.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And we have Mike Novogratz says that crypto is at the finish line. And we know it is, guys. We know that the emerging markets are going to flip that switch this year. Regulation for the United States will be in motion by end of year. And guys, we know at the end of the year also, Those drums are beating are going to get louder. And Mike Novogratz says that we could hit over 100,000 this year. And we don't need any guesswork. The only thing we have to do is keep the eye on the Fed and these Bitcoin ETFs. And is Biden or Trump best for crypto? Guys, we know that's nothing but the Hegelian dialectic. We know whoever president we get is going to be the president of the new digital economy. They're going to put everything in place. And I don't see Biden taking the blame for losing the world reserve currency. So I don't see him being president. If Trump gets sentenced to 4 years, of course, he can't be president. And then we will have someone come out as a surprise to be president, and they'll run the new digital economy. So, guys, the only thing we have to do is sit back, get your popcorn, and let it play out, because this is definitely going to be a movie this year. Now we have Jim Cramer talking about the usual, replacing humans with machines. And he's always pushing the narrative. And guys, we know why. Because it's definitely coming on its way. And we have Google and Microsoft again laying off, and we know it keeps coming. The robots, algorithms, and drones are about to take over the economy, and the sheep are about to go inside the metaverse. And we have Larry Fink, of course, have already told us what's going to happen. If you go back to the Roman Empire, it was all about population. You have to have population and keep growing the economy. But guess what? They want depopulation, and they want to bring in the machines. They're telling you right out of your mouth, people, this is biblical. But unfortunately, the sheep are asleep. They're always focusing on things that don't matter and divide and conquer. They'll fight with you instead of listening and learning. We saw this with the C word. Guys, my people perish from the lack of knowledge because they reject it. Not because it's not there, because they reject it. And that's the reason why they fall for the devil's tricks. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we have the CNBC contributor, David, says something's not right. And guys, we know it's not right. We on T+1. And while everybody's distracted, that algorithm is trying to learn. And we have the speaker, Johnson, on immigration. And guys, we know this immigration, again, is all about the fourth industrial revolution. Digital ID, universal basic income, affordable housing, taking away your privacy, tokenization of everything, the metaverse. And if you have immigration, you need people that will accept anything because they're coming from nothing. And they're going to work jobs that nobody wants to work, and they're going to accept anything. And we know Americans are spoiled. It's the last free nation if the sheep don't wake up. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Who stands to really benefit from the point of view of replacing people with machines so that people can then be more productive in another part of the company?
Yeah, the way we think about it is that today the AI benefit is really about being an assistant to the knowledge worker in a lot of ways. So intensive knowledge workers, you mentioned lawyers, obviously healthcare industry, researchers that are parsing through large amounts of data. These AI assistants are just going to help them be incredibly more productive. You also mentioned contact center. I think that's a horizontal application across many industries where you're going to virtually turn every first call is going to be taken by an AI agent over time. And I think that's something that's going to happen probably in the near term, maybe begin to be deployed in the next 12 months. And so those are some areas where we see AI moving pretty quickly.
But also, isn't there this element, I try to go back and forth with David Faber about this, but let's say you go to see a doctor in a box. So I've got like 3 of them right here. They don't follow up. But I'll tell you, I would take a follow-up from an AI-generated individual versus nothing.
I agree. I actually heard that this morning, your discussion with David. And I think that as long as that has been reviewed by another human before that follow-up occurs with me, I think that's good because I want it tested for competence, especially in the early days of AI. Over time, I think that's clearly once we have a high degree of confidence in the and the expertise that's being delivered, I think that'd be great.
All right.
Alphabet is laying off employees from several teams in Google's cloud unit. CNBC has learned that at least 100 positions were cut in several areas, including sales, consulting, go-to-market strategy, operations, and engineering. A Google spokesperson said that the cuts are what they called incremental across teams to better align its go-to-market organization, in its words.
And a Microsoft spokesperson telling CNBC that the company will lay off some employees who work on mixed reality. The cuts will affect the department that contributes to the HoloLens 2 augmented reality headset, but Microsoft plans to continue selling that device. A source telling CNBC that the layoffs total about 1,000 jobs.
I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. Okay, that's something that most people never talked about. You know, we always used to think shrinking population is a cause for negative growth. But in my conversations with the leadership of these large developed countries that have xenophobic immigration policies, they don't allow anybody to come in, shrinking unemployment, shrinking demographics, these countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. And if the promise, I didn't say it's going to happen, but if the promise of all that transforms productivity, which most of us think it will, we'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations. And so the paradigm of negative population growth is going to be changing. And the social problems that one will have in substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations. And so for those countries that have rising populations, the answer will be education, and so rapidly develop. You know, for those countries that do not have a foundation of rule of law or education, they're going to be left. That's where the divide's going to get more and more extreme. And unfortunately,
our next guest thinks monetary policy not as restrictive as rates would suggest. He's Jefferies' chief market strategist and a new CNBC contributor. Welcome.
Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
I like that. I like the combo title.
Happy to have you as a contributor, although you always contribute.
His name is David Zervos, by the way. Yes, we'll just,
yes, and to those who don't know, David Zervos. Yeah. All right, so you've been saying this for a while that things are a bit less tight, I should say, or less restrictive than we otherwise would think because of the balance sheet.
Yeah,
continues,
and I think with the QT tapering, it's probably set to continue even more aggressively than I might have even thought at the beginning of the year. So I think that's been a helpful tailwind. I guess I don't have a lot new to say on that subject. The new stuff seems to be the beginning of this month. Just a lot of trades getting unwound, a lot of macro stories, whether it's copper, the yen, oil, a lot of stuff happening that seems a little bit out of the ordinary to me. Mike and I were talking about that before we walked on set. And I haven't put it together. I don't know what the month of June is really all about
so you recognize it as out of the ordinary, but
it seems
I've spoken with President Trump about the deportation necessity. I mean, I think that's right. By our estimates, maybe as many as 16 million illegals have come across that open border since Joe Biden took office. But the reality is, deporting them all is not a simple thing. I'm not even sure you could locate many of them. I mean, that's part of the problem.
How do you practically do that? Well, that's the size of the police force that you'd have to do that would be enormous. The cost of that would be enormous. The logistics of that would be enormous. The legal fight around it would be epic.
It would, and the point is, so the theory in this is probably different than the actual application of it, and that's what we'll have to sift through. Look, I think this is doing untold damage to the country. It's catastrophic what the open border has done to us, and I don't need to recount all the parade of horribles with this group because you know it. But we're going to be dealing with this for decades to come, and it is a nation-changing, nation-shifting kind of problem, and we'll have to deal with it and develop responses as we go.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence.
I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.